Hello everyone, Mike with Spray Jones, and we are on the fourth and final roof and spray foam insulation video. In the last three videos we've covered to vent and not to vent, cathedralized attics, and how we deal with all of the airspace inside of them. The third video dealt with roof underlays, roofing materials, leaks, HVAC loading, conditioned airspace, and what to do with the whole entire system as a whole and how we deal with the cost of such. And fourth and final video now is going to be really just looking at the practicality of what's going on with the roofs, because a lot of times people have misconceptions both in cold weather climate and in hot weather climate as to what they're seeing going on with the roof deck. They're used to seeing what their friends and their neighbors have with conventional systems, and then they don't understand the physics and the thermal changes that are going on internally and externally with the roof, and then they think they have a problem when they don't. So that's what we're going to attempt to answer here today. Again, thank you to everybody that has subscribed, has checked out the channel, that's become a recent follower. I really appreciate it. Thank you to all the long-term subscribers as well. Each and every one of you makes it possible for this to keep going on. And I've gotten a lot of feedback since the beginning of the four-part series of that this has helped a lot of people out, and they understand what's going on, and they've changed their plans better to incorporate foam and how to avoid having a problem. So that's really, really neat, and that's what this is all about, is education. Okay, so on to this video. I'm going to break it into two parts. The first is going to be cold weather climate, and the people dealing with ice and snow and all that sort of stuff, and then the second part will be the people dealing with heat and sun, and they're never going to see snow in the area that they're going to be in. Okay, a common problem or question or concern or whatever words you want to use that we get from people is, I see more ice on my roof, I don't keep a whole lot of snow on my roof, my neighbors have a lot of snow and keep snow for many days longer than I do. Why do I not keep as much snow, or when I do, why do I have a bit of ice on my roof? And the answer is a whole lot more simple than you think. Two ways of thinking. Either it's heat loss from the inside and the spray foam is inefficiently working, or it's not thick enough, or they didn't put enough around the cords, or the spray foam guy let me down and the product has let me down. That's one way of thinking. I think we've started to dispel a lot of that. But the second way to understand things is the spray foam system properly installed, like we've covered in videos 1 to 3, is going to make the roof deck so much more efficient that now the major component that's going to affect snow on the roof is not the internal temperature, but the external temperature. Now, what do I mean by that? Even on a super cold day, the sunlight has enough heat, when it's clear, not overcast, to melt a lot of snow on your roof. So snow load, how much snow you have on the roof, where it's collecting, will affect how much melt you're going to have. Now let's take a look at this simple illustration. This is a structure that we spray foamed in 2012. There's 4 inches of closed cell foam to the underside of the roof deck. We are facing the west exposure of this house. This is a west facing roof. This is a south facing roof. These are north faces. The reason that I chose this picture is because of these twin peaks. You'll see a horizontal line of frost. Here is frost, here is a lot of snow in a valley, and then there's no frost. But it's the horizontal straight line that catches your eye. So the first thing one would think is, oh, we must have a problem here. Did the spray foam guys get to this point and stop? Did they change their spec? Did they change their product? Is this product up here twice as thin as this product is over here? No, it's none of those things. It actually has to do with the sunlight. It has nothing to do with the internal temperature or the internal spray foam. It has to do with this peak over here. Its big brother, let's zoom out, its big brother over here, this peak right here, is casting a shadow down onto this peak and into this valley, and that's why this valley keeps a lot more snow in it, and then you get a straight horizontal line here that corresponds with this peak, because this is a west exposure. So the sun is going to rise in the east, sets in the west, so your roof decks that are going to get the most heat and most energy from the sun are going to be your east exposures and your south exposures, of course. And as the sun rotates around in the sky, and it's not very high in the wintertime, so it can't get down into here. And as a result, the shadow that's created here allows this horizontal line here. Colder due to the sunlight being in the shade, and here we've got more sunlight. So this roof will actually get rid of this snow quite quickly, and it's going to take a long time. In fact, this valley will probably stay snowy and then eventually change to icy, and then finally the ice will evaporate, and it'll take many more days or weeks. You can actually see that the sunlight beating down on this little overhang kick here has formed an icicle, and that's just due to melt. This is cold overhang. You know, it's not getting any heat from the internal side, right? So that makes a whole lot of sense. Okay, here's the same roof, north exposure. No heat, no lines, no funny melt lines whatsoever. Again, overcast day, but north exposure not picking up the sun. And I've watched this roof line here stay snowy for days after, whereas the south and the east exposures clear off fairly quickly. And that's pretty typical. Okay, but what about when the snow starts to actually melt? What about a valley like this where we've got a 12-12 pitch, a 10-12 pitch? This is a east exposure, getting a lot of sunlight early in the morning when it's not an overcast day, collects a lot of snow in this area, shades this area from the sun in the afternoon from the south exposure, right? Because this is a north face, this is an east face. So what happens? Well, you keep a lot more snow in the valley. And as a result, as it begins to melt, where's the water going to go? It's going to go through the crystals of the snow and down, and it hits the deck, and then it drains by gravity down the deck until it gets to the eaves troughs. It fills the eaves troughs up, and then it starts to ice cube the eaves troughs as more and more rain, or not rain, but melt water is coming off of this valley. Folks, snow melts on roofs. It melts in January, it melts in December, it melts in February. That's what it does. When the sunlight comes out, there's enough heat to melt snow. So you're going to have to deal with the melt water that's coming down. Is this an ice dam? Yes, but is it an ice dam caused by internal heating? No. It's an ice dam being created by the amount of snow that's on the roof and the amount of sunlight that's coming to it and the natural heating temperature of the sunlight causing it to melt. Here is a better look at that exact detail. So here's a garage. This is going to be a south exposure. This is going to be, or is, an east exposure. Where's the snow collecting? In the valleys. It's a natural space that you get eddy currents, so your air current comes over your roof. It curls as it's getting to these roofs, and it deposits the snow like water running down a drain. So it's a natural spot where the eddy current and the circulation of the air movement and the deposit of snow happens naturally in the valleys. That's why the valleys need to have a weave on your shingles. They need to have ice and water shield, and they need to stop the water from easily backing up the shingle when you get these kind of environments. Can you avoid this? Absolutely not. The wind and the air movement is going to deposit the snow here. Is this melting because of heat from within the garage and within the house portion? No. It's the amount of sunlight that's beating down on the deck. It's melting the top layer of snow. The water is, instead of just straight up evaporating, some of it is, the heavier parts are going to fall down to the bottom, and they're going to run out to the troughs where they're going to freeze, and they're going to back up. And this is just going to have to be taken care of principally by sunlight. It's not a huge problem. Here's some additional proof of a roof deck. Was scanned on the outside with the thermal imaging camera recently. On the left, we see that the foam is minus 14 degrees Celsius on the deck, and then where the cord is, and this sort of answers this whole heat cord issue, it's minus 6. So where you can see the lines visually, you're not getting above freezing temperatures. And again, this is your heat retention, the thermal mass of the lumber, and it's still -6 versus -14, and what you're seeing is the stored energy being released back out. And obviously we can't get the full amount of spray foam around here like we would in the middle, but we've shown you and explained before that the thermal mass of the lumber is going to hold and retain heat and any kind of heat both from within and from without, and it has to dissipate it back out. So you're still seeing a sub-freezing temperature here, but this will affect your melt times because obviously it's going to be slower to melt where the spray foam has no lumber behind it, and where you've stored more energy, there's going to be a difference in dissipation times, and hence the amount of snow and the amount of ice and everything that you're going to keep on the deck as things start to seasonally melt or even melt in the sunlight. They're going to be different times. But this really shows this quite well, I think, about what you're seeing, that you're not getting above freezing temperatures on the outside of the deck. You know, to a lot of people, the idea that their roof can now get warm from the sunlight and stay warm easier because we don't have freezing cold air behind it is just, it messes with their head. They think that the heat loss from the inside is the only way that they can possibly be getting rid of the snow and rid of the ice or causing it. So it's just not the case. You have thermal mass, the 7/16 sheeting, the shingles themselves, the color that you choose, and then the lumber, the truss lumber. It all adds up to thermal mass, and with the spray foam added to it, the maximum amount of heat and solar gain to the outside can be grabbed, warmed into the deck, or placed into the snow that's on top of it, and you're just not going to keep a lot of snow on the roof. And how much snow you do or don't keep on a roof is not actually an accurate prediction and measurement of how efficiently your system is working. Because I can keep an enormous amount of snow on an uninsulated garden shed. It doesn't mean that it's well insulated. So, in fact, with the structure being well insulated, the siding can get warm, the wall can get warm, the roof can get warm because the sun is making it that way. And we're not losing or trying to deal with cold air behind on the roof deck. And as a result, you don't keep a lot of snow on it. You don't keep a lot of moisture on it whatsoever. It dries up fairly quickly. And the thermal mass is not something that you have to fear. It's not something that you have to regret. It's just getting your mindset clear and understanding what's going on. Now, a lot of people wouldn't believe this, but I went outside on a roof when I was preparing to shoot and do this last video, and I had -6 degrees Celsius as the air temperature. And in direct sunlight, I had a roof deck, in direct sunlight, when it was -6 outside, there was 80 and 82 degrees Fahrenheit in direct sunlight. So if you can get 80 plus Fahrenheit, and I mean the structure is not 80 degrees internal temperature, so where's that 80 Fahrenheit? Where's that 26 degrees, 25, 26 degrees Celsius coming from? It's coming from the sun. Yet it's -6 outside. So if you can get 80, 82 on a deck in the shingles, you for sure can start melting some snow. So I find real world stats and real world numbers, just walking out with a laser gun, walking out with my thermal camera, can instantly tell me what's going on a structure, or at least get me the raw data so it can be interpreted. So I just want to switch gears now to people that are going to be wanting to do mixed roofs. Okay, if you're going to be, let's take a look at this picture here for a second. And let's say you want to do spray foam non-vented the way that this one is, but you're planning to bat your gable. So people that are going to be doing this detail, you need a clear transition. You need solid blocking installed. Now with the gable being vaulted the way that it is, it's not a big deal here. But what if these joists or these walls kept continuing upward and you just had a nailing strip here? Well, you need to install a piece of solid blocking. Don't have a fuzzy area where you're not sure where the bat is going to stop and where the spray foam is going to stop. Create a hard stop surface with dimensional lumber, plywood, it doesn't matter. Don't do it with cardboard. Do it with something solid that's timbered. That way you can bring your bad insulation up to here. You bring your vapor barrier, you'd bring your caulking seal, and you have a hard termination spot that you can staple to. You can have your nailing strip for your drywall, and then you bring your spray foam down and on top, and then from that point upwards is the spray foam, and that point downwards is the batting. This is a very easy detail to screw up if you've got stud wall that is continuing up, maybe into a parapet or something like that, and you've got the spray foam. You can't have a dirty transition. You need a hard, solid transition from the foam insulation, closed cell, or even open cell to the batted insulation. If you do not, you're going to have air leakage, you're going to have water coming in, and you're going to have water in your soffits, and you're going to have water escaping outside. So to you guys that are installers, or to you people that are generals, or anybody that wants to know, have a hard termination point from point A to point B, and that way you won't run into easy problems later on. Now switching gears over to the people that are dealing with hot climates and not going to see a whole lot of snow or any snow, spend more of their time in the heat. The question is going to come up, am I causing myself a huge problem with shingles and shingle life? And we've got a dedicated video to that, and we're not going to get into that specifically. You can go watch that video on shingle life and spray foam insulation, but I wanted to show you this document from Elk Shingles. It says here that Elk premium roofing products are approved for use over many non-vented and vented specialty deck systems. These systems include applications over specific non-vented and vented structurally insulated panels, nail-based panels, and non-combustible decks. They go on to state that they have got state-of-the-art testing facilities and technological center in Ennis, Texas, where we conduct our own testing and evaluation on specialty deck systems. So all Elk products carry the full limited warranty over approved deck systems. So they're not giving you a blanket, instantaneous, we will void the warranty if the spray foam is over top of a non-vented roof detail. So rethink the fact that if Elk Shingles is willing to do it, then perhaps somebody else has the technology to do it as well. And I've said it in the other video that the whole warranty issue is a non-starter, but look at it logically. If the hot or the spray foam to the underside of the roof deck created an undue hot roof deck, a deck that was much, much warmer than if it was vented, wouldn't they be foolish to certify their shingles into those situations, knowing that they're going to be getting themselves into guaranteed warranty claims? Wouldn't that be obvious? I think that it would. So if it's obvious that Elk can do it, perhaps some others can. Now, maybe some can't with the type of construction style that they have been doing. A lot of people need to understand that not all products can do everything. You've got to be choosing premier products, premier installation methods, and then they're not going to fail as easily. So back to this Oak Ridge National Laboratories test. It says that spray foam outperforms fiberglass in attic insulation performance tests. They conducted an exam where they did a loose fill fiberglass on the floor of the attic, 14 inches deep. Low density foam between the rafters and the underside of the roof decking, 5.5 inches deep. And a medium density closed cell foam between the rafters on the underside of the roof decking, 4 inches thick. So, you know, you're looking here at your R30, somewhere in the 30s, high 30s, 38 to 40. 5.5 inches of low density. You're going to be sitting close to the R20 in open cell, and in the 4 inches of closed cell, you're somewhere between the 27 to 30 value, depending on product and blowing agent and stuff like that. Test results, scrolling down, test results demonstrate that both low density and medium density installed to the underside of the roof deck and attic assemblies maintains a much higher respective R value at both low and high temperatures. Then fiberglass insulation systems, the spray foam systems maintain 74%, 83% respectively reported R value at low outside temperatures compared to 46% for fiberglass assemblies, 61 and 67% of reported R value at high outside temperatures compared to 51% for fiberglass assemblies. Now that's huge. 51% at high temperatures. So to you in the extreme hot, when you've got the 14 inches, it's behaving like you've got 7 inches or 6 inches. So I've said it before, you put the 14 inches in because the first 6 to 8 inches is sacrificial. And you're trying to make up with a double. You're going to double it. So you want effectively the value of 7 inches or 6 inches of foam fiberglass, then double it out to 12 or 14 inches. So 51%. Attic temperatures of low density and medium density spray foam assemblies average 77 to 78 degrees Fahrenheit at high temperature outsides and 60 to 61 degrees Fahrenheit at low temperature outsides compared to an average of 107 degrees high outside temperature and 7 degrees at low outside for fiberglass assemblies. I would expect this 107 number to be even higher in non-laboratory test environments. I would expect the attics to be in excess of 120, 130 degrees Fahrenheit. We've seen that in that shingle test. So what are we seeing here? What's the interpretation of the data? It's quite simple. You are losing in extremely high temperatures. You're losing 51% of your overall efficiency. Insulation value. And you're going to have an extremely hot attic. So if you have ductwork in the middle, if you have, just even your regular house, forget ductwork and equipment up inside the attic, just your home alone. This is why in the evening time, when the sun has gone down and it's cooler outside, your air conditioner is running for longer and longer and longer. Because the heat that's trapped inside the attic is now trying to dissipate both back to the outside cooler night, but it's trying to dissipate through the bad insulation back into the interior side. So this is why you've got to open all the windows, or the AC unit is running constantly, trying to remove that heat that it's picked up throughout the day, whereas the spray foam system hasn't. And this is why I like the closed cell foam, because when I told you about the R value myth video, I talked to you about something called steady state insulation, where the insulation has thermal mass properties, where the insulation can absorb heat and hold and retain it. And that in the R value testing, the ASTM test, it takes 22 to 24 hours to reach saturation point on 1 inch of foam insulation before the test can begin. To you in the hot weather climates, anybody in hot weather, summer in Iowa, summer in Washington State, summer down in Florida, this is very pertinent, because out of a 24-hour day, 22 hours is giving you a massive amount of time that the insulation on the roof deck, the closed cell or even the open cell, but let's just pick on closed cell for a bit. It's going to take 22 hours for every inch of foam that you have up there to get through it. So the insulation can absorb and retain and hold back the heat. Well, you don't have 24 hours of constant heat. So you can get the sun to go down, the roof deck can begin cooling, and the whole cycle can repeat. And this is why we see the spray foam perform so well for AC loads. Because if you can have the right windows and the right blinds and not pick up the solar heat gain throughout the windows and the glass, you will get the cooling time in the evening with the sun going down, and the heat will begin to pull back out of the roof deck into the nighttime sky as it cools and dissipates around, and then the whole cycle will repeat a second time. So spray closed cell foam or even open cell to the underside of the roof deck creates a cool attic, and it protects the roof deck from excessive heat warpage, where the building materials are getting so hot that it's starting to warp them and cause them to be irregular. So it's going to hold the structural support, but it's also going to prevent the heat from getting trapped inside the attic and creating 120, 130, 140 degree Fahrenheit internal attic temperature that's going to warp the building materials and destroy the building that much quicker. So I think the closed cell foam or the open cell foam to the underside of the roof deck makes all the sense in the world for extremely hot temperatures, and this report helps validate that a lot. Okay, wrapping up, I'm going to get you out of school early today. To all of you that have stayed throughout the other 3 videos, the entire 45 to 47 minutes, I thank you very much. You are the diehards. To those of you that have watched and accumulated about 10 minutes of my video, thank you very much for what you have consumed. I know this is not everybody's cup of tea. But the final subject I think we should just mention is whether or not we should be spraying up or spraying down. Now, I've done a dedicated video to this, and you can watch that, and I'll link it here. But let's just address it right here, right now, because someone is going to say, all right, why not? If the spray foam is so much better, why not just put my sheetrock up or paneling or whatever I've got and then put the spray foam down? And here's a couple of really good points. For starters, if the spray foam can force whatever you're putting downward, it will. Whether it's drywall or tongue and groove or what have you, if it can warp it and cause it to move, it will. So you're taking a risk the entire time that you're spraying the whole 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 square feet of ceiling, that if it can move it, it will. And then how do you remedy that? Second problem is space. You do not have an enormous amount of space on a 412, 512, even 612 pitch roof out towards the eaves. I detail that in the video. You have to get the spray foam, closed or open cell, down onto the outside plate, and you have to work your way back. You just physically do not have the space, especially when you add into it girder trusses, complex corners, tie-ins, other supports, or if you have a mild sloped ceiling, now all of a sudden you got to crawl around and deal with the slope. The other thing is the installer, the spray foam guy, is always risking that they're going to step through, fall through. There could be quite a bit of a drop down below. All your lights have to be wired in. All your penetrations have to be wired in. You can't make too many changes. And you certainly can't change the drywall or the paneling once the spray foam is down. And it's going to be very hard to change out a light or a canister, decide you need to move something over, add a speaker, delete a speaker, change things. Who's going to go up and visual that everything is correct? Are you going to go up inside the attic? Is the builder going to go up inside the attic? Are you going to crawl around to every last single square foot that they've sprayed? I don't think so. But with the spraying of the roof deck system, anybody can walk in at any time, visual the perimeters. The tightest areas are open for inspection. And it's very quick and easy, even on a very steep pitch, to see whether or not you've encapsulated something or not. The other thing is drywall is installed early, too early. We want drywall to be delivered when it's time to sheetrock the whole entire house. Not, it's been delivered, we're tripping over it, we're trying to work around it to do the walls. We'll come in and we'll do the walls, then they're going to have to come in, board the ceiling, leave, then we'll come back again, another trip, another mobilization, then we'll spray down into the ceiling once they give us the board. No, folks, that's just stupid timing, in my opinion. Like, get the spray foam guy in, get everything sprayed, get everything visual, get everything final, let the builder see it, let the homeowner see it, let everybody see it, and then everybody has signed off on it and it's good. Now get your sheetrock delivered. Now let your boarders come in. Everybody makes one trip. Also, the logic is very, very skewed. Why are we going to want to blow in? Why are we going to want to put 1 or 2 or even 3 inches of closed cell and then make up the rest of it with open cell foam, whether it's open cell spray foam or fibers? We've just proven to you that in hot climates and super low climates, you lose 51% of the overall open cell, open fibers product. You lose 51% of the R value. So why am I going to go and blow in 8, 9 inches when I'm going to get half that at the end? So I don't actually believe in the spraying down except for 2 instances. I will forgo doing any spray foam to the underside of the roof deck if I'm doing a condo complex where we had one time a person was doing apartment suites. They wanted the roof sprayed. I came to them and I said, look, we're happy to do the walls, but I don't believe you should be getting the spray foam done to the underside of the roof. They said, why not? Because you have multiple apartments here and you're trying to contain sound between the suites. So you should just put your blow-in insulation on the ceiling, contain the sound in each suite, and then we don't have to deal with it after the fact. and they said, thank you, that makes perfect sense. Also, one other instance, we had a dance hall that we were involved with. They had about an 812 pitch roof, and this dance hall was like, I don't know, 5,000 square feet, but they also had a raised rafter heel. And in that situation, we did all the side areas. The vaulted area down the middle was spray foam non-vented, but all the wings off to the sides were sprayed down on the sheetrock. And it was cavernous up there. We were able to walk around no problem. And we were able to walk around right out towards the eaves. And the eaves were there, and we weren't. We just had to crouch a tiny little bit. I did that one time on a school, too. They had a 12-12 pitch over this old dormitory area of the school. I mean, I don't know, it was 15 feet up to the peak, and we could walk right out towards the edges. In those situations, the material for the ceiling was put in. We make sure there's no gaps where the spray foam is going to spurt through down into the lower spaces. And then we go in and we'll put a first flash coat on just to firm everything up so we can walk on it, and we're not pushing it down so hard so fast with a lot more material. And then we'll go and build up our requisite amounts. And that's exactly what we did for that dance hall, and we did that for the school. And so in 16 years of business, I think I can count on one hand, folks, how many times we've sprayed down up inside an attic space. So it can be done. It is a tool in the toolbox. You pull it out occasionally. I mean, I'm not the kind of person that pulls my crescent wrench out of my toolbox and starts beating nails with it, right? So right tool or the man's a fool. So I think we've covered off in 4 parts exactly what you need to know. I think the science is irrefutable and sound that this is iPad, iPhones, Android technology. This is no longer an old rotary dial phone system. Like the old rules, typewriter rules that were associated with fibrous and blow-in and vents and venting and how you have to deal with everything, it just doesn't apply to the spray foam closed cell systems or even open cells. So you can go non-vented, you can go up against the roof deck, you can get a modern structure and rewrite how you're going to get the envelope established, and it's not wrong. So don't let somebody come up to you, and when you ask them why are we doing it that way, their answer is because that's always the way we've done it. That's not an answer. So investigate. Thank you for being a part of this 4-part series and checking all of this out. Letting you out of school early. Remember to click on the like and the subscribe and the share with people that are interested in the topic, and I'm going to catch you on some shorter videos starting on the next one. Have a good day.